President-elect Trump rounding out his cabinet with members who will be tough on China or China hawks. TD Cowen is out with a new analysis based on these choices. And the analyst there writes this, more, if not all, of the Chinese companies that trade on U.S.-based exchanges will be delisted. He writes this, the argument is that the U.S. should not finance companies that are unfairly competing against U.S. companies that could pose a military risk. That this could be an expansion of the list of Chinese companies that are off limits, but we view a complete delisting as more likely. Michael Lee, I thought this was a powerful research report this morning from Cowen. The second one, he says, is a ban on investment in Chinese companies. He says the flip side is to prevent institutional and retail investors that are U.S. citizens from investing directly in Chinese companies, regardless of where they are traded. The bottom line here is that it is the law in China that the military comes first. That is military-civil fusion. And any company, if it has anything to do with advancing the Chinese military, will do so. So all these companies that you invest in on U.S. exchanges that are Chinese companies, they are tied to the Chinese military, Michael Lee. Do you expect this analyst to be right, that there will be a delisting of these Chinese stocks?
Maria, yes. I think there's a day of reckoning coming. And additionally, most of these Chinese companies do not need to meet U.S. accounting standards and do not need to release the auditor reports, which is insane. Why are companies from China getting this special treatment that American companies do not? Why are we funding our opposition? Why are we funding the greatest threat to our country's well-being? So, look, I think a headline like this, a report like this, couldn't be more timely as Trump is staffing up his cabinet, and why you are seeing Marco Rubio as your Secretary of State. He has been a champion for this issue. They wanted to add, the MSCI World wanted to add Chinese stocks to some of their index funds, which are in United States government workers' retirement plans. Okay, and he fought hard to have that removed.
That's
so
right.
I think this is just the beginning of, how we go to war with China without a shot being fired.
Yeah, and then the analyst is also saying we believe this would require legislation, though there is regulatory discretion here. The other thing to mention, Cheryl, is that there are tougher restrictions on Chinese real estate investments. There's that, too. This is politically popular, the analyst writes. The idea is to bar Chinese citizens and companies from buying real estate in the United States. This was originally focused on real estate near military installations, but Cheryl, he believes it's going to be expanded to apply to all real estate.
And it should be. I mean, we saw something like that happen in New York City a few years ago because we had so many Chinese investors under the guise of LLCs buying up all the residential properties and a lot of the condos and pricing out New York citizens and Americans. So that's one thing. Also, all that farmland that has been bought up, in particular in California. You mentioned the military installations. We've seen that in other parts of the East Coast as well. Why are they buying up all of that land? Okay. Probably not a good idea. The other thing, too, Marie, really quick, though, and I'm curious what's going to happen with TikTok, because, what is Donald Trump going to do about TikTok? I mean, it's been bipartisan that we are suspicious of TikTok. ByteDance owns the company. They've got all that data on American citizens. I think maybe the company needs to get sold to an American company.
And then there's one more item here, Michael Balboni, and that is building supply tariffs. Look, we all know that China is worried about Trump's tariffs, which are on the way. The analyst there writes, we believe the housing shortage will become a top political challenge. The solution is to build more housing, which requires importing supplies. Our concern is not just about how tariffs could raise prices of building supplies from China, but also the risk that Trump retaliates against Mexico and Canada if they permit Chinese imports to flow through Mexico and Canada. So there will be a lot of change coming to China policy. And this analyst is talking about some serious issues and policies that will impact investors in a big way. By the way, Michael Lee, if it's announced that those Chinese stocks are going to get delisted, do those stocks plummet in trading that very day?
Absolutely. It reduces the investor base. And look, you know, if you're an investor, there'll be ways to own them via Hong Kong or other exchanges, and there'll probably be some sort of conversion, but it makes it a lot harder. There's a lot less transparency, a lot less liquidity, because you're going to be trading these stocks in the middle of the night.
Well, we're going to talk about this in my upcoming special on Fox Nation. Backed by popular demand, we have Underwriting the Enemy Part 2 dropping in February on Fox Nation. You can catch the first installment, Underwriting the Enemy, that is Underwriting Communist China. Right now, it is streaming on Fox Nation. So join us for that and for the upcoming Part 2 in February.